welcome back. On today's episode, we have my bestie here. Her name is Emily, and we are going to talk about overcoming hardships today and how hard it is to get yourself out of that pit and that hole of just darkness whenever you are in a hardship.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about how whenever you are in a hardship, how do you even realize, for one, that you're in a hardship, and how do you get yourself out of it?
Yes.
And I know for you, growing up, like just at a young age, like when we were in high school, you went through like a major hardship that nobody should ever have to go through at that age.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know, like, whenever you were going through that, how did you, like, let's just have story time. Like, how did you get out of it? How did you get out of that situation?
So I was 19 and my sister was still in high school, and both of our parents passed away. They were our main providers, and so I just had to go to work. We didn't have any money left to us whenever they passed away, and so everything was left on me. And like I said, my sister was still in high school, and so I just went to work, and I got 2 jobs, and I was working like 70, 80 hours a week.
And this is us, a girl who just graduated high school. When you graduate high school, you're supposed to be like,
yeah,
it's summertime.
Yeah, I was still a teen. I was 19. I was still a baby.
She went from a teenager to a mother in 24 hours.
Super fast. And so we needed money, or we were going to be homeless, or stuff wasn't going to get paid. And so I was working my 2 jobs, and it's like I was just on autopilot for like 7 years. It's like I was depressed and I didn't even know it, because you're just on autopilot and you just have to be busy on the go, and you don't realize how depressed you really are on the inside. And it's crazy, because whenever you start to realize, like, dang, I'm really unhappy, what do I do to stop being like this? And it's like, where do you start? What do you do? How do you get out of autopilot? How do you get out of depression? It was super hard, but we did it.
They did it.
I had my sister in high school. I had her in college. She graduated college with her RN. She's a nurse. Congratulations,
Woo-hoo.
Ashley. Shout out.
We love you.
And it was just super hard, and I feel like what got me through that was just really Ashley. I'm like, I have to provide, like, I have to take care of her, I have to take care of myself, and that's what just kept me so motivated to keep on working.
That is actually a really, really good point, because whenever most people go through something like that, usually you don't lose somebody and have to step up into another role. Usually you lose someone and you do have time to process what happened, but you lost someone, and then you had to step right into being like a mother role, so you had to like keep it together.
And so I didn't have time to process
it. Like, if you would have fell apart, what was Ashley gonna do?
We were gonna be homeless.
Yeah, like, you were the rock. Like, Ashley was too young to even realize like what was going on, and so it's like, in that situation, what happened and you having to take care of Ashley was just such a crazy thing to imagine, but it was also probably the way that you had to take care of her right after it happened could have been the best thing that could have happened to you guys, because it made you guys grow, like, it made you grind, and it made you, like, because say if there was a situation where when that happened and you had other family around, or something like that, like, would they have even been able to do what you did? Like, would they have been able to raise her the way that you raised her? Would they have been able to get her? Like, you guys were getting through what you went through, and you were also raising her. And I don't know anybody else who could have done it as good as you did it. And as young as we were, like, she did an amazing job. I was just like, this girl is so strong, because we met right, like, in the heart of when everything happened, and I was just like, my goodness, like, I would have been fucking shit. I guess we gotta go. I don't know what we're gonna do. Like,
it definitely takes a strong person. I will say I'm fortunate enough where I am very strong mentally in that aspect, and so that did help tremendously, because I think about it all the time, like, other people, if they were in my situation that are not as strong, like, how would they have survived?
I feel like in that situation you could very easily get depressed. You can very easily turn to drugs. You can very easily just uproot your whole life.
Drugs.
Yeah, like
especially
like that shit. I feel like that shit can take you either way or the other. And the way that it took you made you the best version of yourself, and it made you.
It did.
And I think that one day when Ashley is older, that she's gonna be able to look back and just be like, if it wasn't for my sister, I wouldn't be here today. Like, I wouldn't even know. Like, I wouldn't be here. Like, it all goes down to even your kids. Like, you guys wouldn't be where you were today if you didn't make that decision to step up. You could have, y'all were almost low-key both adults. You could have been like, I'm gonna take care of myself, you figure it out. Because a lot of people probably would have done that. Yeah. And so fast forward to now, what's been like 14, how many years? Like 11 years since everything happened?
Yeah, it's going on 9 years, and the first 7 years was extremely hard. Ashley was a good kid. She woke herself up for school. She was still in high school. Ashley's always made good grades. She didn't get in trouble with the law. And so I was very fortunate of having Ashley because she was a good kid. And so I really didn't have to worry in that aspect. What I used to have to always worry about, her mental health, because not only did I lose 2 parents, but Ashley lost 2 parents too.
Right.
And it's like, I have to make sure I'm okay mentally. But I didn't do that because I was on autopilot. I just had to make sure that I paid the bills, and I had to make sure Ashley was okay.
And it was kind of like, okay, my mental health has to wait.
Yeah.
And that's I feel like at that age, I didn't even really think about mental health. Definitely not like I did now. My mental health was completely neglected at that age too, because you're like, I could numb it. I can go do this. I can go do this and this and this to distract me. I can go party. I can go this. But then after so many times, like, you fucking in the middle of a fucking vacation and you're crying and you're like, why? Why am I sad? Like, what the hell's going on? Like, I should be happy.
So I did notice, I was working 2 jobs and I was making really good money. I was able to, me and Ashley went shopping. I was still going on trips. I was taking Ashley. We went skiing. We went to the mountains. I was taking Ashley still on trips. We still had vehicles. Bills were still being paid. And you would think that from you buying everything that you want, from you taking these trips, I was also in a relationship with somebody, and it was like you would think all these things would make you happy, but it still doesn't make you happy.
It's like a void that only you can feel.
It is.
Or even it's a void that nobody, I feel like when something like that happens, whether it's losing parents, whether it's going through a depression,
any kind of depression, any kind of trauma.
Everyone's trauma is definitely different, but being depressed at all is traumatizing. Nobody ever wants to go back to that place. And I feel like now I find myself when I was going through my depressing moment, it was when I joined the military, and I was very isolated, and I felt like I didn't have my family, I didn't have my friends. And then when I did make friends, a year later I had to move away because I was just the military. And they tell you about the military, they tell you how much it sucks to get moved here and here and here, but they don't tell you the connections that you form and that you gotta continue to meet people and leave and meet people and I feel like as a single person who didn't have family moving with her, didn't have a significant other moving with me, it was hard. Those were my people, And
they don't tell you that either. So many people, because I'm still in our hometown, a lot of people are like, oh my God, Bev this, Bev that, and they're like, she's living such a great life and everything. And I was like, y'all just don't know what she went through to get where she's at now. The sacrifice you have to do because you are stationed at this place for a couple of years, a year, and you form these relationships with people and they become your family away from home.
Exactly.
Just for you to having to leave them. And so it's like your family getting ripped from you all over again. It's the craziest thing. They don't tell you that.
There should be I feel like whenever you sign the contracts, in a fucking
some guidelines.
You might get depressed. You might feel a little isolated if you
side effects of the military.
Side effects of the fucking military. They don't do that. But I do feel strangely, my first duty station out of boot camp was Miami, and everyone thought, oh, you're in Miami, you're turning up and you're lit, and I did party, but Miami was the place where I found myself. Miami was the place where I found my relationship with God, because during those isolating seasons, I had no choice. It was either be sad and be upset or go find, that's probably when I first started doing yoga, first doing meditation. I literally was willing to try anything to get me out of that place. And so I chose the route of myself. I chose myself. I chose to find peace. I chose to
Good
find
for
peace
you.
in a place where, like, a lot of people can very much get lost in partying. It's very easy to go down there and get distracted. But I was just like, I can't keep this vicious cycle of being afraid to be alone because I don't want to be with my thoughts. Like, I can't do that anymore. Like, I don't want to go home and be like, oh, I got to distract myself because I just don't want to feel this anymore. Instead, like, let me learn to channel my feelings in positive ways.
Yes.
And I feel like when you are in that stuck place, like, that's kind of what you have to do is you have to figure out ways to, you have to figure out what makes you happy again.
So the question is, so you're depressed, correct? You're
Right.
depressed from trauma. How do you get out of that depression?
I feel like the first step is when you finally realize that you're in the depression. Because if you don't
Self-aware.
you have to be very self-aware to be like now I could be like, I feel like a fucking mood card. I'm like, I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm angry, and I'm like, before I would be like, what is these emotions that I'm feeling? I don't know. And I feel like you have to wake up and you have to be very self-aware of where you are. You have to realize that, oh, this is depression, and then you have to ask yourself, do I want to fight this or do I want to let it take over me? And I feel like that's just the main question that you have to have. Like, it's either you or me. One of us got to go. We both can't stay here.
Yeah.
I feel
We both can't stay over there.
y'all, one of us got to go. And it's like, when do you take your life back? That's how my depression goes from depression, sad, self-pity, like all the things, insecurities, like it's like a full circle. And then it goes to anger because it's like, I want my life back. Like, who told you can come in here and take this for this long? Like, you've been here for too long. Like, you gotta go. And that's what I feel like it really is. Like, you really have to like go to war with thoughts in your head. And I really feel like that's it. So how would you say, aside from, because whenever everything happened, you were taking trips and you were doing things, but you weren't purposely doing those things to distract yourself. It was just kind of naturally happening. Like, you had no choice but to work. You were taking trips. You were just continuing to live your life. Because we were still in just getting out of high school. So life still went on. You didn't completely stop living life. And that's one thing that I admire about you, because a lot of people would have just like
shut down,
and you just kept living life. You kept
especially where we're from, like, drugs are kind of a big thing around that area. And I know a lot of people that were our age that went to drugs and now they're drug addicts. And so for me to be able to go through that at 19 years old and just really put in that work and not become a drug addict, kudos to hell on that.
It's giving a book, but okay. It's giving a book. It's giving we should write a book.
I do know that within those 7 years, because the 7 years were the hardest, I was depressed and I was on autopilot, but I was taking trips, and not until a couple years ago, I realized like I was on autopilot, because I was even super depressed a couple years ago. And I remember I woke up one morning and I was like, because I was going to work and then going straight to bed and then staying in bed until I was going to work. That's depression. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, how do I get out of this autopilot? How do I get unstuck? And I was going to the gym. I didn't like the gym. I was going like outside. I wanted to come back inside. I was still buying whatever clothes I wanted and trying to make myself feel good, and I just still wasn't happy. And so I really just had to like sit myself down and be more self-aware and be like, you have to get through this. Like, you have to do better. How I stopped sleeping all day is that I got some animals. If you're not an animal person, just try it. I had a midlife crisis and I got 5, but they wake me up and they get me out of bed, and I love it. And
we love our little fur babies.
Yes, we do. We love them. And so I was just like, I need to get out of this slump. And I remember I would wake up and I'd be like, okay, this is going to be a positive day. I'm going to get out of bed. I'm going to clean my room. I'm going to take a shower. Because even the simplest thing of taking a shower will make you feel better.
Taking a shower is like, it's so crazy that you have to think, oh, let me take a shower. It's like such a normal thing to do. But when you're depressed,
you'll go days without showering.
Going to drink a cup of water is stressful.
Yes.
I'm like, my Lord, can someone just bring it? I can't. Like, I don't even want to, I barely want to turn around to like to like move to get comfortable. Like it's like you become like a couch potato.
It was to the point where like I wouldn't even want to get out of bed to go to the fridge and get me a bottle of water. Like I wouldn't even want to get out of bed and go to the bathroom. Like I'm just like, I don't care. And so I forced myself out of bed, take that shower, go outside, just fiddle around your apartment, clean, pick up things. And then it's not going to happen overnight.
No,
it's not going to happen. It's going to take days, and within weeks, you'll start to feel better.
You will.
You have to wake up in the morning and be like, okay, I'm going to get out of bed, and I'm going to tell myself this is going to be a good day.
Exactly.
Take baby steps. Like each day, do something that will slowly make you happy, and then in a month's time, you'll be way happier than what you were just a month ago.
And I do honestly feel like healing is not linear. It's always, you're always healing. You're always having to fight for your happiness. It's just life.
Yeah.
Like if you went through anything, you have to fight for your happiness, because those thoughts are not disappearing just because you're healing. They're just not as hard to deal with anymore. And so it's like moral of the story is you have to pick yourself. You have to wake up and you have to pick yourself. And I feel like getting out of depression, I feel like whenever, at least for me in my experience, whenever I was depressed, I was so mean to myself. I was so like hard on myself. I was just like depressed, and then I was like, okay, I'm depressed. I'm not doing anything. I'm like how I look. Now I'm gaining weight. Now it's this, and now it's this, and it's just like a never-ending thing. And I do feel like the way that you talk to yourself every single day, the way that you love yourself, can heal. Is a way of like helping your depression as well. Because if you don't love yourself and you're in a depressed state, how can anybody else come in and give you that love? Like you have to give yourself that love. You have to. Like nobody can come up and be like, hey, let's like get you out of this depression. Like you have to, and it might start with you going to hang out with friends and absolutely fucking dreading it, but you did it. And then, because I know whenever you're depressed, 9 times out of 10, like going to be social, it just takes so much energy.
It does, but from that little moment that you're hanging out with your people, you do feel a little bit better.
You do feel better, but then there's times where you're like, okay, my social batteries ran out, and I want to go back home and get back.
And that's okay, because at the end of the day, you got out of the bed.
You did.
And
you took that step.
Something. Yes, baby steps. It's all about baby steps. Give yourself grace, be patient. It's all about baby steps.
You really do, and you have to, grace and patience is like the most perfect way to put it, because I think a lot of times when we get depressed, we put this pressure on ourselves and we get upset with ourselves that we're not happy yet. And it just does not happen like that. Realistically, like you have to give yourself grace. Everyone's grieving, and emotional like processing is completely different than, and you have to, and there's going to be days where you could go months with being happy and then a whole week with being sad. And that's just life. And I think that you have to take the good with the bad, but you have to always know that it's going to end up being okay. And everything is working itself out for the better of you. You just don't realize it. Like if you fast forward to where a time where we were sad or whenever we were down a few years ago, and you think now, in that moment, we realistically thought we was never going to get out of that shit.
Yeah.
We thought this was it. Like this was going to be, and for some people it is it. Like some people never get out of it.
And that's the sad part too. I really do hate seeing people like that, because I'm fortunate enough where I'm super strong emotionally and mentally. And so I was able to get through what I went through. And some people just cannot. And I feel like if you cannot help yourself, always get help. Talk to your friend, go to therapy, do whatever you need to do to get out of that hole. Because at the end of the day, this is your life.
Yes, and your friends and the people that are around you, they can't help you if they don't know that you're drowning. Like they don't, like you can put on a front and no one knows what you're going through. And that's another thing. I feel like I was very closed off. I never used to let people in. I used to be like, oh, I'm okay, I'm strong, I got it. But like, you don't have to always be strong. Sometimes you not being strong, sometimes you crying and getting your emotions out and yelling and doing whatever you need to do. Look a little fucking crazy. Look crazy. You might have to look a little crazy for a second, but you are processing, and nobody in this world is perfect. Nobody in this world handles their emotions like a freaking angel. We are all out here trying to figure out how to get through this, and I think the biggest thing that you can do is just give yourself love and give yourself grace, but the grass is greener on the other side, and you will definitely come out of it. You will come out of it, and no matter what you went through, it does get better, and you just have to remember that. You have to remember that it gets better.
I feel like, so when you're depressed about your trauma, the first step is what? Being self-aware?
Self-aware. I would say self-aware is one of the...
Because like you're confused, like why am I feeling this way? Be self-aware and be like, okay, I'm depressed, so I need to fix this.
Right.
how do you get yourself out of autopilot and being stuck? Like, what's the next step after that? Do things to make you happy.
Right.
Talk to your friends and family. And if you have crappy people in your circle, or if they're just not good at talking about situations like that,
everybody's not.
Go see a therapist. If you don't have money or the resources for a therapist, there's so much stuff online that you can access to help you. But like the most important step is to be self-aware.
Right, and journal. Like I know journaling seems very like journaling, but journaling, like getting your emotions out in a way, like if you don't have people to talk to, or some people just don't feel comfortable talking about their emotions just yet. If you're not at that part in your journey yet, journal it. Like write it down or record yourself talking about it. Just whatever you got to do, get it out. Get it out.
Find things to make you happy. Do baby steps to get out of bed.
Take a little mosey walk on down to your local farmer's market or something. To go on down to support, get your lip gloss. Like do something. Like remember who you are. Remember who you are, Queen. Like look in the mirror and be like, this depression does not define me. It was a moment of time, but it is not my identity. Like do not let that shit become your identity, Queen, because you are just so much more than that, and you are so beautiful, and you are so worth fighting for. And we just want you to know that, and we love you, and we hope that you guys really enjoyed this episode. And
thank you for having me, Bev.
Of course, bestie, and we will see you guys next Tuesday.